you have given me the best sample already.
Oh yeah?
This is a good sample
Yeah?
of your story.
Yeah?
The game between you and your wife.
Oh sure.
That's a wonderful story.
Oh, it's how we got to know each other.
Yeah.
And you know, after several months of dating, she pretty well knew a lot about me because we would play that game. You know, we'd just be sitting there and she'd say, all right, tell me a story.
Well, there's a challenge, and I believe there are some techniques to be used when you want to dig out her story.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
It won't be the same way they tell me your story. It will be
Right,
like-
right. It's a little different.
It will be a different,
Sure.
different lead.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, tell me more about your basketball.
Oh, you want a basketball story?
Yeah, how did you get started?
Oh.
How did you find out you like basketball?
Oh, well, I'd say that I was tall for a kid my age. Like I said before, that I was only about an inch shorter than I am now when I was in, say, 5th and 6th grade. So I got to play on the basketball team because I was tall. And I was okay. I was pretty good, but with my height and the way I could play, I did fairly well. And I had a bit of a maturity spike that happened in 6th and 7th grade, and I ended up being pretty good. And but that was my glory days, junior high. After junior high, everybody else got better, and I stayed the same. So that was like my shining moment to be a basketball star was 7th and 8th grade. And the only problem is that in 8th grade, I broke my leg right in the middle of the season. And so it messed up my identity. But I remember the game when it happened. I was just warming up, doing layups at the beginning of the game, and I went up for a layup, and all of a sudden I felt this pop in my leg. And I evidently, the muscle in my leg had overgrown my bone. And the doctor said, that's one of the reasons why you were so fast. Your muscles were growing very quickly as a kid. And it had broken a little bone up here, at the top part of my leg. And it broke it at the beginning of the game. And so I was really hurting, so I paced the hallway for a little bit, but I really wanted to play. And I convinced the coach, and he sent me into the game. And I'm hobbling, I mean, I'm playing like this. And they let me play. I mean, nowadays they probably would pull the kid out, but they let me go ahead and play. And it was hurting so bad. But the most glorious moment of my basketball career happened in that game. Because there was only like 9 seconds left on the clock before halftime. And they passed the ball into me. And I'm coming down the floor like this, and my leg is killing me. I can barely walk. There's no way I'm going to make it to the other end to try to score. There's only 9 seconds on the clock. I've got it. I got to do something. So I got as far as I could. It was like 2 or 3 seconds left, and I was at the half court, and I just launched it. And I'm on one foot. I couldn't even stand on my leg anymore. I was hopping on one foot, and I just launched it. And it went up. Whoosh, it went right in. The crowd went crazy. And I'm walking off the floor, and I'm hobbling as we're headed to the locker room for halftime. I looked over at this girl, Amy, who I just thought that was the sweetest thing in the world. And she was a cheerleader. And I looked over at Amy, and I went like that and walked into the locker room. That was the glorious moment of my sports career. Everything else was after that. That was the high point. And that night we went to the ER, and they said you have a broken leg, and that was the end of my basketball career. So that was it. I ended on an amazing note.
Did you ever tell this story along with a biblical verse?
Oh, sure. I've told this story before, and a lot of times when you think about, well, what's the theology that you could wrap up in that story I just told?
Yeah.
Well, there's a couple of things. One is that we're all wounded. We're all playing the game of life with less than our perfect selves, you know? And sometimes in life, you give it your best effort, and the ball never goes in. But every once in a while, you know, it goes in. And it is we just admitting that we all come from kind of a wounded place, you know. Also, I think that anytime you're talking about pride, You know, you can tell a story about something like that, like playing basketball when you were a kid, because when I made that shot, I thought I was king of the world. The truth is, I was a wounded person. I was less than perfect. I didn't plan to shoot that basket. I did it because I couldn't do anything else. And sometimes in our lives, we do things because we figure, well, I can't do anything else. But that's exactly what God intends you to be doing. He's prepared you with wounds and all to do that job in that moment. And so I think that with a story like that, you can talk about pride, you can talk about being wounded and still having a purpose. You know, there's lots of different ways you can go with it. You know, I think that in every one of our stories that are meaningful to us, I believe there's a theology. Because what's theology? Theology, you know, is understanding God and understanding our relationship to God. And I would argue that most of the important stories of your life or of my life, if it's important, if it's had significance, then it should be very easy to connect it with God. You know, I can tell the story of meeting my wife for the first time. And that, you know, can help me to reflect on how has God prepared my life for me? Did God set me up with my wife? You know, how is it that we were able to form a relationship, each of us not being perfect, but we found a way that her imperfections and my imperfections, well, they kind of go together, and we can help each other. You know, you can tell a story about being sick and in the hospital, and we've all had that feeling of helplessness. Anyone who's had to stay in a hospital overnight, it's awful. You're stuck in a bed. They wake you up. They poke and prod you, but a lot of times we feel helpless in our lives, and that connects us with God. You know, I think that the most glorious celebrations and the darkest moments of our lives are moments that we can connect with that relationship we have with God. Yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
You take that stuff? All right, that's good stuff, huh?
That I found the right person.
All right, good stuff. I mean,
I'm surprised.
well, I tell stories all the time. It's how I survive my sermons.
I don't know how I neglected for such a long time. I mean, it's someday in May 6th or something.
Mm-hmm.
When you gave that speech, that sermon at the celebration, and then somewhere in September or October, I forgot, I present the idea of the new direction. At that time, I was not thinking about you. I was not. I totally forgot about what you said. I only remember you mentioned your useful days, and that opened my eyes. It's okay to mention the useful day in the celebration of aging.
Yeah, and isn't it
That
funny?
surprised me.
When we talk